Chapter 19. Reuniting with the team. The parking garage was dark again, going in. I entered first with my AR pointed forward, scanning for threats. Stock was snapped back out to full extension, flicking my light on and off as needed. It was really a moot point though, because Mr. Scientist behind me was shining the flashlight everywhere and talking. Oh well. It didn't matter that much. There was no power down here, and nobody could have got by us. I wasn't going to be a hard-ass at this point and boss him around. He was already being a trooper. Didn't want to demoralize him. The elevator had only ever been used once, which was for the doctors. There was no connecting stairs between the first floor and basement, so I was being careful merely as a precaution. The scientist I was with didn't seem to mind. I think he was happy to be out of his lab. There were no cats in the stairwell. They had finished their respective business and had gone back to playing in the huge parking garage. The scientists stopped and sprayed some of the antidote in their food and water. "I'm the vet also," he murmured timidly, trying to be informative. I checked my watch, and we had about a minute left. We were about halfway to the shutters when the lights turned on in a stagger of illumination. Half the lights, just enough to see. I let go of my flashlight's button and it powered off. I was able to sweep for threats. Even better now, actually being able to see. The white light made me an easier target too, though. I saw several of the cats looking back at us, laying around cleaning themselves and overall being indifferent. However, I'm sure if I'd had turkey, it would have gotten them up quick. As we got closer to the entry and exit bay, the cats started to figure out what was going on and wanted to go out. They started huddling around us, and the vet scientist I was with started spraying them all as best as he could. The cats didn't like this, but it seemed to hurt them. Within a few seconds, I heard 3 distinctive large engines heading towards the gate. Excuse me. I looked up to the ceiling and around. There were now blinking red lights, and so I noticed the security cameras. I looked at the cameras and pointed to the doors, then to my watch. A few more seconds go by, and I heard several large latches unchunk. I threw my mechanic's gloves on, got to the first slider door, and started running the chain to lift the door. Then all the cats streamed out in the wild, happy to go see what had been going on. For the last few days they had been cooped up. I see the 3 trucks coming, and I see that the bollards are still up. I go back to the camera, angled down at the entry, and point to the bollards and make a hand signal. It was a motion like trying to squish down a peg with one hand, squishing in 2 fingers, being a bending peg. I do that a few times, then pointed outside, and then ran back to keep manually opening the steel shutters. As the trucks pull up and everyone gets back out to form a perimeter, the bollards start slowly lowering. One of the guys gets out and gets to the other bay door to start ratcheting it up. The scientist vet I was with went to spray him. I explained as fast as I could, without sounding like it was a dire emergency. Everyone needs to be sprayed due to a toxic plant. I'll explain everything in a minute. Everyone hopped out and secured the perimeter, and the bollards completed their descent. The drivers drove their trucks in, and the team covered their entry. The team covered the vehicles from both sides and the back, and then followed the trucks in backwards. Once we were inside, we closed the shutters. The driver drove the trucks around in a circle to check the area and to get the trucks reoriented in the right direction to exit later. Leadership jumped out, and we all nodded, and the CO pointed to me. I started, "This is one of the scientists," and I motioned to the scientist vet that had been with me. "They were being held hostage in another area on this floor. He has to spray everyone right away. There's a toxic plant in the area that will make you violently ill." Several people were already starting to not look good from exposure outside. The scientist vet approached the CO, and he nodded and got sprayed. Our 3 drivers hopped out. Our CO said, "Get sprayed, toxic stuff around, is bad." They all nodded. Out of the 15 of us, he was able to spray about 10 before it started to run low. "I'm running out. We need to get back to the lobby on the first floor." he said after trying to shake it a couple times to get the last out that he could. One of the folks on my team that got sprayed started sneezing. I tried to not act alarmed. Okay, I said then, power's back. As a reminder, elevator from the sub-basement. Basement 1 only runs to the first floor. The other scientists are holding the first floor, but we need to relieve them and come up with the rest of the plan and finish the debrief. They know we're here, so let's shake a leg. Our CO took over and said, okay, thanks. 3 stay with the trucks, rest with us. The 3 that had been sprayed stayed with the trucks, and the rest of us followed back through the stairwell through the basement offices and up the stairs to the lobby. Chapter 20. Back at the main level lobby. We re-entered the main level lobby, and the scientist I was with quickly got the attention of some of the others. He singled out the folks that still needed spray and got them sprayed with the antidote. Then had them sit down. The tangos were all gone, and the pile O guns was still untouched on the floor, much to my appeasement. Their new unofficial security intern was at the guard station with someone else trying their best to figure everything out. There seemed to be less scientists than before, but enough to take care of our group. The rest of our team was thankfully able to recover thanks to the speedy actions of the scientists here. One of the scientists got on the internal PA and called up to the medical floor to send someone down to get our medical officer up to speed on what was going on. Our CO understood some of the science stuff, but was saying he wanted to hear it in medical terms also. It was pretty funny hearing them trying to talk. I asked where the rest of the scientists were. One of them explained that if you went up and secured the medical wing, basically they had gone up with medical personnel to explain what had happened to their comrades. The other floater security guard had made his way to the hospital floor and was very upset. Was asking a lot of questions about why his team was sick in the medical wing all of a sudden. Somewhere in the middle of the scientists explaining, the floater got nettle sauced right in the face. I was still struggling with the number to put with them. It sounded like a 16-man group, and we'd taken out about 7 so far, 3 per floor and some floaters. Our CO had stationed people at the elevator and main stairs, and had everyone started securing the perimeter while he checked the cameras. He also had 2 people inventory the firearms pile. We would probably split it with their team leader later, now that I thought about it. That seemed fair, but it wasn't up to me. I know some of the people on my team were already eyeballing the SKSs, though. So funny. There was a big question as to why the OPFOR didn't have comms on them. I thought it was really weird. Usually we would have got on their comms and have been able to work out a plan that way, but they had no comms. That meant they had a different way to communicate, or they were on a schedule or something. Our CO offered to have our team secure the medical floor, but they declined, saying no bullets or guns on the medical wing. We all rolled our eyes without being able to help it, but we knew they had a point. Plus, if the tangos tried to take over the medical wing, they would all get squirted by the scientists holding the floor, and the white foam would ensue from everywhere, and that would be the end of it. The CO interrupted the tail end of my thoughts with a simple question. Do we know where local security is? I responded, they're being held on one of the floors. We don't know which. We had talked to 7 before we got here, which is comms. Whoever we talked to sounded fishy, but our guys probably aren't on that floor because the tangos would want them far away from comms. I paused for a second to think, or just in case someone wanted to interject, and then continued. They're probably also not on 5, which is the hospital floor, because we would know about it. That leaves 2, 3, 4, and 6 is the most probable. I thought for a second and referenced this handwritten doodle I'd been referencing that I made as everyone had been talking. Floor 2 maybe makes some sense because that's the closest to 1 and easiest to keep track of them, but maybe they would want a buffer and keep them instead on 3 or 4 since that's right in the middle. I looked at my doodle some more, and the rest of them are probably on 6 because between the hospital wing and comms, so they can keep both monitored. It's probably just a handful on that floor, 1 or 2 max. I kept going since nobody had said anything, so I think they have 11 guys left. Probably 2 guys on the 6th floor and 3 per floor on 4, 3, and 2. And I think they only had 1 floater and One of the scientists took them out immediately with a squirt gun filled with the juice. I think there was another floater on the hospital floor, but the scientists juiced them already.